McCarthy.
Oh, welcome back to Dirty Sexy Fun with Jenny McCarthy. That's Jewel. I have co-host today, Justine Marino.
Hi.
Welcome back, Justine. You're going to be performing, I hear, October 2nd and 3rd, where?
At the La Jolla Comedy Store.
I feel like I've been there before, but maybe not. Maybe not. La Jolla, it's near San Diego.
Yes, it is. It's lovely, a nice beachy town. No one wears shoes.
What do you call San Diegoans? What's their name? San Diego. I don't know. Remember Anchorman? He has good morning.
Yeah, something.
All the San Diego people are going to start calling us.
I just know he called.
We're called San Diego people, right. Idiots.
Idiot.
Jewel's going to be coming in any moment. I'm kind of like, I have that nervous excitement, but I love her so much.
I know.
There's few and far between people that you get excited for anymore, especially after you live out here, right?
Yeah, I mean, you see them all the time. You work with them, like Jewel, you know?
Right. And who's been disappointing besides me that you've worked with?
You know, most of the people have been pretty good just because I deal mostly with comedians, so they're pretty, like, lighthearted and upbeat, you know?
How are you so normal and not dark and broken?
I hide it very well. Yeah. I mean, I feel like everyone's a little dark and broken. You have to be to want to be in this business, right?
Everyone's flawed in some way, but
I don't know. I'm still pretty bubbly, though. I guess I don't.
But if you look at the female comedians, let's look at Chelsea Handler, like Amy Schumer, whatever her name is. Like, they look like they've been, through the ringer.
Yeah.
You don't. You still look like no one's fucked the life out of you yet.
I mean, not quite the life, but, I guess,
Are you in a healthy relationship?
I am.
Still that same guy you're boning?
The same guy. He's really great at boning. So I'm just like, let's just keep boning,
Marriage, maybe?
I mean, I don't know.
Because you're what, 30?
Yeah. I'm so old.
Shut up. I remember when I'd say that. People used to go, shut up.
And now you're like, you get it.
Now I'm old.
No, you're not old. You look younger than me.
No, I don't. I'm starting to look like Caitlyn Jenner, and I know it. I know it.
She's here.
Jewel?
Hello?
Oh, my God. Jewel.
I'm
Hi,
so
Jewel.
bummed I don't get to see you.
I know.
I put on my best drag face today. I was looking all hot for you, sister.
I put my best ponytail on for you today. I have been talking about you all morning. If you hear another voice, it's my little friend Justine Marino, who's here with me.
Hi.
We're both, through the years, because I feel like we both grew up on MTV literally at the same time when MTV was good. And I have been such your cheerleader through the years. Like, I haven't met a non-cheerleader for Jewel. Like, everybody I talk to always says the same thing. Oh, my God, I love Jewel.
That's nice. Thank you. I'll take all the help I can get.
Now, let me give you some plugs here. You got your new book, Never Broken. It's available September 15th on Amazon.com. Michelle and I started. Michelle got further than I did, but I've been looking at it. It's amazing.
Thank you.
This is long overdue. I feel like people needed to know the story, but now you have more of
more of a story to tell.
More of a story to tell, yes. I wrote every year of my life, 10 books for every year. I kind of should have just waited like you did and put it all in one.
Amazing.
You have a new album, Picking Up the Pieces. It's available on iTunes right now, correct?
Yes.
All right, so then let's get into the book. The book, I mean, wow, you poured your heart and soul, just like you did with your music, into this book. Why did you want to write it?
I've often been asked... and even me, so I grew up, I had an abusive background. I ended up moving out at 15 because I realized I could either live in a cabin with an a-hole or I could just live in a cabin. So I decided to move out, pay my own rent, and I knew statistically that girls like me end up repeating what we're raised with. So I would end up, in a ditch or in an abusive relationship or on drugs probably by 20. And I had read a lot, and I had looked at, obviously, nature versus nurture. And if I didn't like how I was nurtured, how could I stop the cycle? Could I re-nurture myself? And so I decided to try and conduct a science experiment with my life and see if I could use my mind to retrain myself and to learn happiness, and was happiness a learnable skill? And that set me out writing. And then that ended up turning into songwriting, and it really helped me through these different phases of my life, from becoming homeless. I was agoraphobic. I was sick all the time. And when you're stripped of everything, from your house to money to a support group, and you're literally on your own and stealing food to live, and then to the point where I was so agoraphobic I couldn't even get out to steal because I was so gripped by terror. I remembered what Buddha said, that happiness doesn't depend on who you are or what you have, it depends on what you think. And so I started trying to retrain my brain and began writing songs, and then I got discovered, and then ended up suffering some of the worst betrayals at the heights of my fame, which is a part of the story nobody really knows. So for me, it's really a survivor's story, but more than that, really knowing that you can be the architect of your life, and that our pain doesn't have to define us except in the ways that we choose, and they can make us more compassionate people.
Do you think telling this story was more therapeutic for you, or more of a message to help people in the end?
Hopefully some both. It took me 40 years and a lot of pain to develop a lot of these exercises that helped really change and turn my life around and empower me. So if they help
Jewel,
anybody else, that'd be great.
You have to stop and kind of, do you ever like pat yourself on the back and go like, wow, look what I did. I was able to change that cycle. I was able to break it and do something great with my life despite the circumstances. Are you able to do that?
You know, writing this book really helped me. You know, I was in a really strange relationship with my mom, and it was a really difficult time. The heights of my fame were really, really difficult. And then I went into a marriage, and then I got out of the marriage. And so this is the first time I really feel like I'm free. I'm able to step back, look at my life. It's been a heck of a ride, and I am proud of myself. Yeah.
Just to give a little people a little bit of a sneak peek into the book, so because I want them all to go out and buy it. I didn't know that your dad went to Vietnam, much like my dad. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that you were kind of raised in the beginning by your father, that your mom wasn't around.
Yeah, my mom left when I was 8, and my dad took over raising us. And he had PTSD and was a vet and began drinking to handle the stress, and that's sort of when he became abusive. And it was really interesting to talk about that story. My dad gave me permission to talk about some difficult circumstances he and I went through, and he and I have a great relationship now. He's done a lot of work to heal that, and I have a ton of compassion, and so it was a real goal of mine to talk about the cycles of abuse and how there's really no black and white. Nobody's all good or all bad. We usually are raised with these patterns, and we perpetuate them unless we can step in and change them.
Right, and they come out in other ways of dysfunction. Maybe not repeating the exact same thing, but other types of dysfunction. And then the thing that shocked me the most, Jewel, was that relationship with your mother, because I remember when you, in that height of your career, so to speak, I think you always have your height, but I know what you mean. I remember like that song you did with your mother, and I was like, oh my God, you know, from the surface, I was always like, they look like they have the most beautiful relationship, but you guys didn't. What happened in that height of the career?
I thought we had the best relationship. And as I say in the book, she didn't end up being who I thought she was, you know. As a mother, I think it was, I was blind to a lot of it. The need of a child and that wound of wanting your mom's love made me quite blind to a lot of the stuff that was going on. And I haven't talked to her since, 2003.
I was going to say, do you think sometimes we forgive our parents too easily because they're our parents?
I think it can be that way. For me, it wasn't an option. Like, I have to see changes. So my dad didn't just earn his way back into my life by saying I'm sorry, which it's helpful to hear that and healing. But unless habits actually change, unless interactions are actually different, you can't build back up trust and build a relationship again. My dad did that. I don't think my mom ever will.
I hope people hear you say that. I hope you say that in the book. That's huge. I think people let people back in their lives and just, you know, keep having abuse happen.
Yeah,
saying,
and
I
kept my mom in my life much longer than I probably should have, because it is a very, very difficult thing to say goodbye to a parent.
And in the book, do you discuss actually what had happened with your mom?
Yeah, I go into quite a bit of detail. It was a tricky thing to do because it's sort of like, I liken it to being a lobster in water. You know, you hear if you put a lobster right in boiling water, they scream, and then if you put them in cold water and then gradually turn up the temperature, they sort of stay there, and that's how my life felt with my mom.
God, that had to be so hard. Does it still hurt, or have you healed those wounds?
There'll always be a big hole. You know, there's always a child that wants a mother's love. As I say in the book, I don't miss her. I'll always miss having a mother, but being real about what actually was going on feels better than what it took to pretend and lie to myself.
Well, one of the things that you said in an interview is the more transparent you are, the safer you are, and that's how you felt in your music. That the more raw you were, the more successful you were.
It's interesting, you know, when I was 15, I was like, I have to avoid being a statistic, and I thought I could avoid pain. If I was really really thought and really vigilant and really looked, I could avoid pain. Well, that wasn't the case. I avoided some statistics, but my life was an incredible journey of incredible betrayal and pain. I didn't avoid a lot of it. I didn't realize, however, that safety actually doesn't come from avoiding pain. Avoiding pain is impossible. It comes from remaining vulnerable, remaining open, remaining yielding. That's the best armor that we actually have. And if we let bitterness consume us, we end up suffering way worse.
It's true. I always felt like in the beginning of when I started my career, I went, you know what, if I'm just honest and open, like show my flaws, then there's nothing they can find out about.
Yeah.
And it's way more relatable. Like people go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can connect a little
and
bit.
then you can grow up and grow and change. You don't have to face that, like, is she who she thought we thought she was? And you get to grow and change, have a very transparent relationship. It works.
Talking about relationships, you know, I had gone through a divorce myself, which was very disappointing. Even though I wanted out of the relationship, I remember having to go through therapy, and my therapist said, "Okay, now you've gotten this far. You have to get to the point where you have to mourn the loss of failure, because I gave it my all. I really wanted it to work, and I failed, and I had to mourn that. Did you go through that?"
Absolutely. And divorce is devastating. You know, I don't wish it on anybody. I think that I really had this sense that the quality of my grief was going to be the quality of my next life. And so, you know, I dug in and wrote a book and really examined what brought me here, what happened. How do you forgive yourself, especially when a child is involved? It seems like a sin. And it takes a long time to grieve that. And it felt like a sacred privilege to take that time and really grieve it and really let it break your heart, because it should break your heart, even when you feel like it's the right thing to do and the right thing for everybody.
I wrote a book about my divorce, and I remember thinking, okay, Jenny, you have a child, don't forget, you might read this someday. Did you have that issue when you were writing, going, I have to be careful?
I had so much going on to write about that I didn't get a ton into the divorce, and I did try and really... the book, while it reveals a lot and is incredibly brutally revealing, it's not salacious. It's not a tell-all. There's no bitterness in it, and so I didn't go a ton into the divorce with my husband. I was very aware my son would read it. It was more about talking about my story and what I felt that I could say honestly.
I love that an interview said, instead of like going through a divorce and having like meaningless sex and getting drunk, I went and wrote a book and I wrote music, where I was like, okay, but are you still maybe going to go out and have some meaningless sex? It's very important to do that too.
I'm dating a little.
You are. Isn't it hard to date?
It is kind of hard. Yeah. And I'm a very earnest person, so it's hard to be too trivial, but yeah.
Where does Jewel find guys?
I met a pretty hot guy in an elevator. Yeah. Not that anything went down on the elevator, but, you know, you meet guys all places.
Oh, the went down at 6 a.m. I mean, and do you ask for a phone number or what? I'm like, how does Jewel pick up somebody?
Actually found him on Twitter. Yeah.
Oh my God,
the modern dating service. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I used my talk show as that same thing, and I wound up marrying the guy that I interviewed. So
That's
there you go.
Nice. It is hard, I think, as a famous girl to meet people, because sometimes people are intimidated and they don't really want to walk up to you or talk to you. And we live in these weird little circles where you travel these small circles. You don't really get out and meet a wide variety of people. So yeah.
And plus, people have perceptions of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the worst was when I slept with somebody and then they asked for my autograph. I was like,
oh
my God,
MG, I would die.
I almost did. Speaking of sleeping with people, you did talk about something where I can relate to so much, which was the casting couch situation.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that in music it happens just as much.
I think it happens everywhere. You know, men are men, and they feel like it doesn't hurt to try, I think, is the male motto. And that's fine. They can try. I think girls just have to remember that they don't have to do anything about that. And I was lucky. I grew up bar singing, had guys hit on me since I was way too young. Luckily, too young to do anything about it. You know, when I was 8, people would put a little dime in my hand and fold my fingers over it and be like, call me when you're 16. You're going to be great to, you know, have sex with when you're older. And I watched, you know, women, drunk women in bars and what they would give up for a compliment, just for a compliment. And I realized that was not something I ever wanted for myself. And how fleeting it was, that it made you disposable. And so,
Did anybody ever go too far?
I mean, I always had propositions. I never was, nothing too, like, dangerous or anything like
You
that.
didn't have to break any noses or anything like that?
No, but I got very good with the quick comeback, being very witty, very clear about what and what I wasn't available for, to shut things down. And you have to do it in a way that protects the guy's ego so that, nothing turns violent, especially in a barroom, where alcohol is involved. So you have to use humor and wit and kind of just get out of it that way.
And then how good is it to look back at your career and go, wait a minute, okay, I did all of this without sleeping with anybody or doing anything inappropriate?
And I never felt I had to. Probably one of the most difficult ones for me was when I was working at a coffee shop. I got fired because my boss was wanting to do nude calendars of the girls, and I told him to screw off instantly, and he never approached me again. But there was one vulnerable girl. She was probably 16. She'd just gotten kicked out of her home, and she was scared. She really thought she had to do it to keep her job. And so I stuck up for her, and he fired me on the spot. I went and sat down at a table. Some guy goes, "What's the matter?" I said, "I just got fired." He goes, "Need a job?" I said, "Yeah." So I go to work for him, and he ends up propositioning me. I turn him down. I joke it off. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't anything tense. I went in for my paycheck the next day. He wouldn't give me my paycheck. Couldn't pay my rent. Got kicked out of where I was living. Started living in my car. My car got stolen. And it just was this poverty cycle I couldn't get out of, and that's how I ended up homeless.
God, that's such an amazing story, Jewel.
But by the time I was famous, nobody, guys will hit on you, but that's no big deal. That's, But
Right.
never once did I feel pressure of, like, Jewel, you got to do this. But, that was never part of it.
When I first moved out here, I remember making that decision. I'm not going to sleep with anybody for a role. Maybe for some shoes, but never for a job. Jewel, I love you. You know I adore you through the years. Every time I've seen her, literally for the past 20 years, I jump her. I'm like,
I can't believe we're not, we need to be better friends.
We do. We really
I'm a
do.
fringe failure right now. I'm going to work on it.
Well, you've been very busy, obviously. Your book, Never Broken, available September 15th on Amazon.com. Go get this book, along with available on iTunes right now, Picking Up the Pieces. I love you. Congratulations on all your success, girlfriend.
Thank you so much.
Keep kicking ass.
Bye.
Love you, girl. We'll be right back with some celebrity jerks. Thanks.